Hey guys, it's Evan over at PC Gamer. So I'm in the process of reviewing the War Z, and I'm going to have a lot more detailed criticism, of course, when we post our review on our website and our magazine. But I wanted to jump into just to sort of to mention something that's particularly bugging me. It's really egregious, just like a couple really serious issues in the game, design issues that are really irritating me. So here I am in my character, one of my 5 characters. You can have 5 characters in the War Z. And I'm in an area of the map called Campo City. The whole map is sort of modeled after Colorado, and I'm making my way as I check out some zombies here. Those actually will pop up and attack you if you get too close to them. I'm sort of cautiously walking over to this shopping center you see in front of me, because there's potentially a lot of loot in there. It's sort of a big loot-bearing structure in the game. And that's because I sort of want to talk about this issue of server hopping in the War Z. It's a big problem. It's a huge and serious design problem that still hasn't yet been fully addressed, even though they've just now sort of expressed their plan for initially addressing it. So what I'm talking about, and you're going to see this in the video, is the way the War Z works, because it's also kind of the way DayZ works. Wherever you log out on a server, if you log in on a new server, you log back in the same physical location in game. So if I log out in the store, which has a potential for a lot of loot in it, and log into a new server, I'll get a new instance of loot and sort of new items potentially in that area. You can see I'm sort of walking in here. I've actually intentionally logged into a low population server. Oh, cool! That zombie has the same shirt I have. Yeah, so I'm in a low population server. War Z servers can have up to 100 players on them. Some of them have 50 player capacity, and you can see I've already earned a bag of chips. Yeah, I mean it's not very substantial. This area of the game isn't going to have high end loot necessarily, but it's still an easy way of doing it. And I think players are always going to take the path of least resistance, right, to get what they want. So this is kind of a problem. And actually, as I'm bringing this up, you can see I'm trying to talk to somebody in chat here. I'm in a low population server, but coincidentally, I'm running into like one of the 4 or 5 people on the server over proximity text chat. And this is actually the other big problem I want to bring up. The game doesn't have voice chat, and it's mind-boggling that it doesn't. It's crazy that the game is something you can buy, and they're perfectly fine putting it on sale without voice chat. A game where, I mean, there are 2 modes. There's a permadeath mode and a non-permadeath mode in the War Z. But in either case, if you die, you lose what you're carrying. You can see I'm preparing to sort of server hop here and change servers, go back to the server browser. But in a game where you're encountering other players and you're sort of faced with snap decisions of, are they friendly? Do they have weapons? What are their intentions? Like, do they see me? It basically all but eliminates the possibility of having interesting and friendly interactions with players when you have to take your hands off your weapon, essentially. Take your hands off WSAD and your mouse and type to them rather than talking, rather than saying something quietly so that only they can hear it. Like, it's crazy that there's no voice chat, let alone proximity voice chat in this game. All right, so I've logged back in here. Again, sort of the server hopping issue. I've grabbed a weapon. Immediately there's a weapon there. Coincidentally, I'm sort of moving around, grabbing other equipment. And yeah, so I will say, I noticed on the forums in a sort of patch notes that they're planning to release next Tuesday, the 22nd of January. Hammerpoint's plan for addressing server hopping is basically to add a system where if you're changing servers, if I did what I did just now, I would spawn in a random location, sort of nearby where I spawned out, where I logged out. And I don't know if that really actually addresses the issue. I think it will make it slightly harder. But if I'm just in a city on an empty server and I log into another empty server, does it really make a difference if I'm not in building A anymore, but I'm actually closer to building B, which has comparable equipment? And yeah, they actually said their plan for now is to say that as long as, if you don't log back in, if you don't wait 10 minutes before you log back into a new server with that character, you'll just sort of spawn back in the same spot anyway. So I don't know. I mean, with 5 characters that you have in the War Z, it doesn't really matter anyway. I can just swap between characters until I want to go back to that one and log back into the same spot. Anyway, so as you can see, I'm actually right now I'm running to a safe zone to sort of deposit my gathered loot to sort of make a further point of why this is an issue in the game. And this is actually something I like about the Warzy. It has a global inventory system. This is something that distinguishes it from DayZ, the game it's arguably copying off of. And yeah, I mean, it's at least something that makes it different. You have this global inventory that's shared among your characters. You can bank items and stuff. But I mean, the purpose of the game is to gather equipment and arguably to have interesting interactions with players. And both of these things are being strangled, I think, and just suffocated by these glaring design issues. You can't communicate with players in a meaningful way. I can type to them and just make myself completely defenseless while I do that. But instead, what you see is I've just been killed 90% of the times that I see players. I'm immediately shot because they know, like, any attempt to communicate with me is probably going to, lower their defenses basically, and they're going to be vulnerable. There's no reason to trust anybody in this game. That really significantly impacts. I mean, in DayZ, for example, the best times I've had are just somebody like messing with me, like being sort of harassed by a bandit, being kidnapped, and things like that. You have players that like approach the game like they're medical personnel. And, they're in DayZ. They're basically professional doctors and they're pacifists. And that's only possible because there's proximity voice chat. So until that exists and until Hammerpoint actually addresses, I think like more formally and aggressively addresses the server hopping issue, these are just fundamental reasons not to play the game because they completely I mean, it's essentially a way to sidestep the effort and the mechanics and the fun involved in playing it, involved in loot gathering. If you can just log in and log out 10 minutes later or 20 minutes later, whatever they balance that to be. I mean, one way they might approach it is if you log into a low population server, there's actually less loot. I mean, that would make sense to me. I don't know how hard that is to implement, but if there's any way to make that proportional, I think that would be a good way of going about it potentially. All right, so I'm going to have a lot more to say in my review, and I'll kind of save the rest for when that's posted. But for now, I just wanted to sort of share and show 2 reasons that I would encourage people not to play the game and sort of wait if they're actually interested in it. These are just fundamental design issues that need to be addressed and kind of exist because the game hurried to market so much to beat DayZ, which is a shame. We'll have more videos like this in the future on our channel. Please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching.